This is Seattle. There are lots of places you can go to get a cup of coffee. Not so many places to go for coffee plus deep conversation, dancing it out whether it is joy, anger, or grief, or for learning about leadership, racism, inclusion, and business. Black Coffee Northwest is a wonderful destination for all those things, plus amazing scones. For this podcast, Darnesha Weary, one of the owners of Black Coffee Northwest, joined me to talk about the joys and challenges of owning a business and providing a safe space for community and conversation. Have a listen. Then if you're in the area, head up to Shoreline for a cup of their own special roast. I'm Shannon Perry, and this is the Audiotocracy Podcast. So thank you for joining me, Darnesha. This is awesome. Really appreciate having you here. Can you give us a little history of Black Coffee Northwest? Are you the original owners? How did you get associated with it?
Sure. Yes, I am the original owner of Black Coffee Northwest. It's owned by my husband and I. It's a family business that we opened in Shoreline, Washington. So we're the original owners, the first ones.
How long have you been open?
We've been open since October.
Since October.
2020. Yeah.
That's awesome. Why did you decide to go into business for yourselves? Have you always wanted to be entrepreneurial? Have you done other businesses in the past?
We've always been a family that has worked, but has always had a side income, has always had, other revenue streams coming in. And we're very innovative and creative. And so we're always, now that we look back, we've always had entrepreneurial spirit. Even our kids in school, like making things to sell them, things like that. So that's really why we decided to go ahead and purchase the business and go in for ourselves. We really wanted to create a space for Black and Brown community, especially in the Shoreline area, where we could be and feel safe and feel like it's our space, and then provide employment and other opportunities for other youth in our community. So that's really why we started it.
That's so awesome. That's so exciting. And you've been in business, you said, since October.
We've been in our physical space since October. We've been doing this work, this community work, for 20 years.
Wow. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So I actually started as a volunteer at Boys and Girls Club in North Seattle. When we first moved out here, there were not very many people that looked like us. We had just had a baby, and so we were always looking for community. And I love dancing and stepping and drill team, and so started a drill team at the Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, that's cool.
Ago. Yeah, back actually 21 years ago. Back in 2000, we started with just a group of kids and just kept growing it and growing it and growing it over the years. Ended up traveling nationally with the group.
Wow.
We had to take a pause during COVID, but some of those families that are involved with Black Coffee. It really is the same kind of spirit behind what we're doing. We just now have a physical space.
Okay. Are there videos of that we can link to in the show notes?
Yeah,
awesome.
There's lots of videos. Yeah.
Well, as a former marching band member, I am a huge fan of drill team and all those fun things. They're so great.
Yes,
that's great. What is the best part of being in your business?
I would say the best part of Black Coffee and being in business is working with young emerging leaders. They're so. They have such a unique voice and perspective on things. And it's just been really fun. It's been challenging for me. They've challenged my thought a lot. And we talk about like diversity of thought and having different perspectives in the space all the time. But it's hard, right? Like as an adult all the time, because you're like, but you don't have life experience, or but you don't know. But they actually do know. And so it's been really fun to like sit back and take a back seat and let them really lead and do the things that they innately know to do.
That's so cool. What do those conversations look like? How do they happen?
I laugh because it's usually my husband and I will have an idea and they're like, no, why are we doing that? Or we'll come up with like marketing strategy. And it's usually usually there's a disagreement, but they're usually always right, which is great. I mean, because we adults try to overcomplicate things. And we have this fear of like systems getting in the way. And I've done systems work, I've done anti-racism work. And so I definitely lead with this fear of creating the one thing that we don't want.
Right.
Which is a workplace that doesn't have equity and fairness. And so we're creating all new systems, which is fun and great. What a great time to do it when we're really rebuilding, and it's a great time to start a new normal.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just, as adults, I feel like that creative sometimes, or it gets bogged down with life experience.
Right. Oh,
And then
absolutely.
then we forget about the simplest solution is usually the best one. So they do a
Right.
good job of keeping that at the forefront of every conversation.
That's so great. And what does that look like when it extends beyond Black Coffee Northwest? How does that get out into the community, these changes?
Well, my favorite part about the systems that we're creating at Black Coffee is that we're a small family-owned business making a huge impact and being very intentional about
Mm-hmm.
how we navigate, how we move in this space and what we stand for and what we don't. We've been very out loud and upfront with what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We're willing to risk revenue if that means it's going to damage and harm our community. And so in the work that I do, working with large organizations, I always look at them like, you can take that risk because you have a very nice budget
Right.
to take
Right.
these big risks, and you have executives and data and all these platforms and tools and access. And so my question is, why don't you do it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why
Mm-hmm.
don't you do it? If we're a small company that, we're making these big moves and we're standing behind Black community and Brown youth and the voice and making sure that every part of our business stands behind that. And so that's always my biggest challenge to bigger organizations. You're just choosing not to do it.
Right.
And
Right.
that's really what it is.
Right. And that's too bad because those are the organizations that can move the needle so much faster. Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because they have every resource at their fingertip to do it.
Right.
And we're like running around trying to make sure we have all the resources. And
Right.
yeah, it's
Right.
actually the more and more we get, the deeper and deeper we get into Black coffee, it's more frustrating. And for our youth, it's really just, they get more and more disappointed
Mm-hmm.
every time because they're like, bigger organizations have these same conversations. We just hired baristas and talking about our HR process. And our first process, we did not get the desired result we wanted as far as our candidate pool. Our
Mm-hmm.
candidate pool still had no Black and Brown people in it,
Really?
which was very interesting. We had to go back through our process and we're like, why? Why? And then we realized the job description was too wordy. It was really excluding people out from even being interested.
Ah.
And so we
Uh-huh.
kept rewriting it until we got the desired result that we needed, because that's what you're supposed to do. But
Right.
we ended up getting a very diverse applicant pool. I mean, very diverse at the end of it, and documented that. And I'm like, that's how we're going to hire moving
Okay. I love that. And that is, I want to have a whole separate conversation on how small businesses can do that kind of thing, because I think that is fascinating.
forward. Mm-hmm.
The idea that how you word your job placement application, like that is, most of us,
How
I don't think we
yeah.
would even consider that. We just talk like we talk. And
Yeah. Yep. And
yeah.
that was the kids we talked about, like, where did we place the job description? Where do we even
Right.
post and
Right.
advertise? Like, is that the place where our desired demographic, our diversity lives? And it wasn't,
Right. Right.
because that's where we always post jobs. And that's where everyone, quote unquote,
Exactly.
everyone goes. And so it was just, those are hard conversations. It takes sometimes hours to get through and hear, because we
Sure.
want to hear everyone's perspective. We'll do analysis. We're, putting things up, pros and cons, but those are the life skills and the skills that we want all of our staff to walk out with.
That's fantastic. Do
Mhm.
you do any kind of training of other businesses on how to do things like that? Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think that's fabulous. That's so exciting.
Yeah, I've built my career. In my career, I do anti-racist work and do equity work with
Awesome. Hmm.
organizations. And so all the things that I've coached organizations on, we're just implementing at Black Coffee because I don't have to ask permission. I just do it.
Excellent.
And it's really all the things that I lead a lot with what our anecdotal data says. Like, how do
Hmm.
your people feel? Like, you put these systems in place. How do your frontline people feel navigating through this? What is it? So we do a lot of checking in, and it takes a lot of
Sure.
time.
Sure.
But I always tell our team, we don't ever want to get to a place where we're having to hire someone like me to come fix it.
Excellent.
Like,
That's so
let's
great.
take time to do it right. It takes a
Right.
long time to build something. And once you build it and the foundation's solid, then we can just keep building. But
Right.
that
Right.
foundation has to have zero cracks.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's tough, man. That is tough.
Ooh,
And
yeah.
but I love that people are then, if they leave your business and go work somewhere else, they are taking that expectation with them. and that
Yes.
becomes their baseline for the next place, which is great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially for our young women and our young women of color in
Mm-hmm.
our business, like negotiating.
Yeah.
I tell them, here's your offer letter. I'm expecting you to negotiate. And they just like look
Love
at
it.
me and I'm like, I need you to practice
That's
those skills.
yes. Oh
Yeah.
man, I love that. So you are both employer and mentor, and I think that's fabulous. That's
Yeah.
ideal. Yeah.
It's
Oh.
great. It's fun. I mean, I get tired a lot, but it's a good tired. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a good
It's a
tired.
well-earned tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is the most challenging thing about the business?
Being small business,
Mm-hmm.
being Black in business has been really hard,
Mm-hmm.
especially in our area. It's been really hard to navigate through and be taken seriously.
Really?
Yeah, we've been dismissed multiple times, like, or they just don't expect that we have it together. And people are like, wow, you really are a business. And I'm like, you really don't understand how rude those
Right?
things are to say,
Yeah.
or they'll hear the name Black Coffee and they'll walk in and see who owns it and they're automatically like turned off, and we're fine with that. We're like, it's fine. It's just exhausting to have to deal with that and have to
Mm-hmm.
run the business. And we're just trying to run a business. We're literally, I tell people, we're just trying to have a coffee shop and provide employment opportunities for young emerging leaders. That is it.
Mm-hmm.
And if
And
you're
who could
mad
object
about
to
that,
that?
yeah,
Yeah.
like if you're mad about that, that's on you. That's not us. So
Yeah, that says something very unpleasant about you.
yeah,
You, the
really,
person who objects to that, because
yeah,
wow. I'm sorry to hear that, but I'm just so glad that you're continuing on and prospering. It's amazing.
absolutely.
So you said earlier that it is a family business. Do you think it's easier or harder to be in business with your family, or both?
It depends on the day. Depends on the day.
Right.
Um, I would say that my husband and I, we've been married for 20 years. We have a 21-year-old, well, excuse me, married for 22 years. I have to base it on the kids' ages.
Right.
We have a 21-year-old and a 17-year-old, and
Wow.
we we spent our whole life focused around our kids and really
Hmm.
fostering them into being the adults that they want to be, and we let them explore and we let them do what, we put them in everything. They were involved in all of the things, and so we
Great.
created really amazing adults. um, and so when we're in the space of business, we have to take off our parent hat,
Hmm.
and our daughter is the president of our company. She does a
Wow.
phenomenal job leading the company. We help mentor her, but
That's
sometimes when she
fantastic.
is leading, like that mom in me has to like take a back seat, and quiet down, and she'll see my face and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God. And my son is building our app. My son loves like coding and
Oh,
that. So
cool.
he's building our app. He's done our logo. He's doing all of our digital. My daughter runs our social media. So I think the most difficult part for my husband and I is honestly seeing them as young adults and
Hmm.
and
Sure.
actual like whole people, not our kids.
Right. Right.
In those moments. Yeah. But it's been fun. I mean, my husband and I, like, we work really well. We're very much opposite, right? He's very, I'm out there. I'm like, woo, let's do everything. Let's open
Right.
24 hours a day. Let's have everybody in here. He's very much like strategic. Like, I say that I'm like the visionary. He's the executor. He's going to get it done. It's like a
Nice.
perfect match of just our staff meetings are lots of emotions and
Sure.
yeah. It's a good time though.
That's great. How many do you have on staff?
We actually have 10 people on staff.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
it's a lot. We have 10 baristas on staff, and the only paid staff are our baristas. And we're really, again, very proud of that because we will continue to say that it's people first. It's people
Mhm.
first. If anything, during COVID, we had all these scenarios that we built out with our young team. Like if capacity is pulled back or if we start losing revenue, like what are the things that we can start cost savings? Like what can we do?
Right.
And
Right.
people were last on that list. And
That's amazing.
I was like, we're going to stick to this no matter what.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
And what a learning experience for your crew.
yes.
That's
It's a
having
great
to really
experience.
plan. Yeah.
Yeah, having to do scenarios, having to do budget, having to do forecasting, reforecasting. And
Right.
two of our staff are actually at school in business. They're getting their undergrad in business. And so the things that they're doing at work are things they're learning in school, which is really cool also for me because I
Yeah.
have been in the workplace for a long time. Things change.
Hmm.
And they're getting
Oh
like the
yeah.
fresh new things they're learning in college. And we're like, yes, we want that. Like, let's implement that here. Yeah. So that's actually really fun.
Great.
Yeah. It's real
Yeah.
fun, that part.
That's
Yeah.
great, man. Get people who are doing the learning for you and can bring it back and explain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. That's a great strategy.
It works for me.
There you go. If you could have anyone come in for coffee, who would you want to have come in and what would you talk with them about?
This is gonna sound funny.
Go for it.
I would have Beyonce, and all my kids are gonna be like, "Oh my
Oh.
god, wow!" You
Oh,
know.
heck yeah. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Okay. Great. So I would have Beyonce come in because, and I would just want her to come in and have coffee with me as a mom who has stood behind her community
Hmm.
unapologetically, like very unapologetically has built generational wealth for her family. I mean, her daughter has an Oscar, you know, these like they intentionally built and created wealth for their family. And so
Hmm.
I did not grow up seeing that. And I would just love to, I know I'm like, I'll take a picture, but I want to hear that information. Like sit down and tell me like, how did
Right.
you do this and like maintain your family and be a mom and be a wife? Like all of those things that do it so we see as effortlessly, but I know it's not effortlessly behind the scenes.
Right.
And those are the
Right.
things I want to hear about. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And for such a, relatively young woman, she's done
Hmm.
so much and so much for others. It's
It's,
incredible.
yeah. And I'm
Yeah.
tired, like after one day of working, I'm like, whew, like I could
Right.
imagine like dancing and singing and staging. That's a lot. So I would just,
Yeah.
and I'm also fascinated about just that life, like traveling the world. I
Yeah.
would
Oh
love to
yeah.
hear all about those stories. Yeah.
Yes. And then I want to go with her.
Yeah. And that's the last question. So when am I going with you?
Yes, exactly.
When's that happening?
P.S.
Right. I'm coming with you.
So if I came in to Black Coffee Northwest on a typical weekend, what and who would I see?
You would see the first thing when you walk in, you're going to just feel energy. Just like this positive, people call it, they say it's a vibe.
Nice.
It's a positive energy. You're going to see kids, usually little ones, running around the lobby or dancing with their family. We had last week just this random, I think Baby Shark came on. I don't even know how Baby Shark came on. I
Oh
was like,
no.
where did that come from? But like
Ah,
all the little start dancing, their parents start dancing, and those are things you're gonna see, just like random moments of joy and laughter. And we don't mind, we love it. When
nice.
people come in there with their kids and they're like, sit down, be quiet, and we're like, they're fine. Like
Yeah, right?
a lot of these kids haven't been socialized, because of COVID. So if they come in and we usually have bubbles, breakout bubbles, or we'll have
Oh,
music up and
awesome.
it's just lively energy. And that's the part that I love. And then sometimes you will see just like moms sitting in a corner, just like looking like they're just ready to check out.
Right, right.
um, and we'll like give the kids coloring papers or make them Italian soda and just have fun. And just, it's like a village, a community that
Nice.
takes care of each other, which I love. I mean, we had like little kids the other day, and like they were running towards the door. Like someone opened the door, and someone's toddler was like, you know, running towards the door,
Right.
and like every mom got up. We all like got up at the same time to get the baby, and I was like, oh my god, like I'm gonna tell the mom I'm sorry. She's like, no, that's great. She just had never experienced like everyone taking care of everyone.
That's so cool. That
Yeah.
is really cool. I feel like so many places where we get coffee around here, it's a get and go, but it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like Black Coffee is a get and sit.
Get and sit, get and stay. You never know what you're going to see or hear. You never know what we might do a random TikTok dance in the middle
Nice.
of this with the kids. And it is what it is. It's just fun.
That's so great. It just sounds like such a wonderful, positive, energetic place to hang out. Like better than the caffeine for getting you going in the morning.
Yeah. And we need that, especially right
Oh,
now in
yeah.
2020. This week, like the community just feels the weight, and we can just go to
Hmm.
Black Coffee and just dance it out and find a moment of joy. Last on this past Saturday, I had a meetup of women after we closed. We just brought some food in, brought some wine in, and just sat around as moms and just talked. for
Mm.
hours.
That's great.
We
That's
just
great.
needed that space, right? So
Yeah.
it's been really great for that.
Right. Like you said, just a safe space to talk about the issues. And yeah, that's great. That's so
Yeah.
important. And it's very hard to find.
It
So
is. We talk about politics at Black Coffee. If people are having conversations about politics on all different sides, all different perspectives, we're not like shh, if it gets like disrespectful,
mm-hmm.
which but it hasn't. It's
Right.
never gotten to the place
Right.
where anyone's ever gotten like, oh, that's we just talk it out. Like we appreciate diversity of thought and perspectives.
Wow.
Yeah.
It sounds like you set that environment very intentionally so that people
Hmm.
have respectful conversations and people know the
Yes,
boundaries of that. That's good. That's good. That
they do.
doesn't happen often, unfortunately, in public spaces these days.
Yep. And our like questions of the day are like, how are you going to be anti-racist today, or what
Nice.
steps are you going to take to learn today, or what's going on with the trial today? We those are the questions that we ask, and people don't
Mm-hmm.
have to engage in conversation, but a lot of people do. They
Mm-hmm.
want to talk about it, and so especially our youth, they want to talk about these things. They don't talk about them at school. A lot of families may not have
Sure.
these conversations, so it will be hours of those conversations of them just they know what's going on.
Right.
They
Right.
need to unpack. And
Right.
so we love that
So
place.
yeah, and for those who are listening to this later, the trial is Derek Chauvin, right?
Yes, Derek
Yeah.
Chauvin. Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Yes, thank
absolutely.
you. I did never know how to pronounce his name. Yeah,
Yeah,
the killer of George Floyd. So,
yes,
yeah. Yeah, that's very much on people's minds right now, so I'm sure a lot of people would appreciate an opportunity to be able to talk about it and feel
yes.
and in a safe space.
And just have the conversation. And
Yeah.
whenever the verdict comes down, we're prepared to open. We opened during even election week when that election night we opened our lobby space for
Wow.
families who just wanted to come be together. It's COVID safety and we were at limited capacity, but and we adhered to that. So we had like 10 people that were just there and just wanted to be in one space and
Right.
be together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I totally understand that.
Hmm.
That kind of leads me very neatly into my next question, which is coffee shops often depend on the community around them for their
Hmm.
business. So, what message would you have for the people in your local community? Maybe those people who have not been to Black Coffee yet.
I would say that our community needs to be a community that accepts and loves and welcomes everyone
Hmm.
from all walks of life, from all backgrounds. Like I want Black Coffee to be a catalyst for change. Like if you don't know where to start, if you don't know what to do, if you don't know how to respond to racism when it shows up,
Hmm.
when it's in your systems, when it's in your government, like when it shows up, like if you don't know what to do, we want Black Coffee to be the place where you can get a resource, you can ask the question, and you're
Great.
gonna get an answer. Like we tell people, the kids say, we give you the same energy that you give us. So if you come in and you're really asking this question because you're curious and you want to know, we will have the conversation with you. But if you come in and we don't feel the right energy, we will not have the conversation with you
Right.
and we will
Right.
ask you to leave. And so, like, we've set that expectation so the community knows that. And so it's become that place where we've had really hard conversations and we've been civically engaged in my family for quite some time. We've been city council, school districts, like we've done the work of knowing who's in positions of
Hmm.
power, what makes up our city. So just having those important conversations, like all of our neighbors matter, the unhoused neighbors, though our unhoused community matters in Shoreline.
Hmm.
And they are welcome at Black Coffee at any time. You don't have to feel any program that we do. We offer scholarships or not even scholarships, we offer access. And so you'll
Nice.
never know in a class who paid or who didn't. You'll never know. And we love that
That's
because that's what
wonderful.
community should look like. We want to provide
Yeah.
access for anyone that wants to have a cup of coffee. We don't sponsor glasses of coffee because that still show like we don't like that power dynamic of like we
Mm-hmm.
say we provide access for any
Perfect.
coffee if you need to use
That's
the
great.
restroom, as long as you come in respectfully, we're fine.
That's so amazing.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. It's such a wonderful community resource too. I mean, coffee, scones, all that great stuff is great, but the resources are so important and so valuable. That's
It's so
great.
great. Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody needs to take take a trip down there.
Take a trip down, and the coffee, I mean, our coffee, my husband, it's our own roast now.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, we have our own roast that we just launched last week in our shop, and it's so good. It is like people come in they're like, oh, we love black coffee just because of what black coffee stands for. And then they taste the coffee. They're like, oh my goodness, like this is the best coffee I've ever tasted. And so,
Awesome.
like,
I
yeah,
actually, yeah, I wanted to ask you, what are some of the most requested things at your shop?
Americanos are in our drip, just our plain drip
Nice.
coffee. People love it. We call it black coffee. So people love those.
Yeah, that's awesome because, I have to admit I'm one of those people that needs to have basically an adult milkshake with like lots of flavors and creams
Yes.
and things in it. So, yeah.
Yeah, me too. I really was too. And then I started like tasting coffee and like, learning more about it. And so I'm like, you can learn anything you need to learn on the internet, which is another great
Right.
thing. Like we wanted to do a roasting line and we were like, we don't want to do that. But our kids start studying on YouTube.
Perfect.
um, and I'm like, perfect. Yeah.
Yep,
So
yep, yep. It's amazing. People are so generous with their skills on YouTube. I love it.
yes, they are. It's,
It's
yeah.
really great. So Seattle is famous for coffee, and there are a ton of coffee shops out there. So maybe you've already answered this, I think, but how do you differentiate your business? Maybe in your own marketing practices, how do you differentiate black coffee?
I would say when you come to Black Coffee, first of all, our model is for every coffee that you purchase, it goes right back into our community. Like the proceeds
Wonderful.
go right back into our business. Our budget, like we did really well in February, and our team sat down and we're like, we were past our budget. What we do? We hired more. Like we were able to hire
Awesome.
two admins, and so which is really awesome. So. Like we show that, we show the work that we're doing, and so you know what you're doing about coffee. And I would also say we're very in tune to what our community needs. We keep our ear to the ground, and we will serve
Nice.
our community first at all times unapologetically, even if we know we're taking a risk at saying so. So we took a huge, because we're going to just do the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Oh,
at the end of the
fantastic.
day, we're just going to do the right thing, and we're going to do the most fair thing. And we
Hmm.
know it's not going to please everyone. And we're
Right.
out loud saying, that's fine. We're not
Yeah.
here to please everyone,
Yeah.
but we will make sure that everyone is included.
Right. And it sounds like what I love is that you are able to articulate why you think this is the right thing, why this is the right thing for you, for your community, for your business, for your employees and your customers. And I think a lot of times people kind of think, well, I'm doing the right thing, but it's like, have you really thought about it? Like, can you explain to me why that's the right thing? So that, if I come
Yes.
in confused or concerned, that I then can get that understanding from you and
Mhm.
that learning. I think that's great.
Yep. And we teach
Fantastic.
all of our staff. We have these conversations with our staff all the time, like how to answer these questions, but it's not hard for them because
Hmm.
they're a part of it.
Right,
It's in the
right,
fabric of the organization. So now when I go to big organizations, like if it truly lives within the fabric of your organization, you don't have to have all these
right.
one-off classes or one-off, like it just
Yeah,
is what it is.
yeah. Yeah, and I love the idea of having your frontline staff so engaged in the business making decisions because end of day, that's the face of the company, right?
Yes.
That's who the customer sees one on one right up close. So yeah.
Yep. And we'd say in my favorite phrase for them is I'm like with our leadership team, like if we don't feed our staff, they will eat our customers. And like if we don't feed
That's
them,
awesome.
whatever we give them is what they're going to give our customers. And so that's with our management team who are all between the ages of 18 and 22.
Wow.
When a staff is having a performance issue, I go back to the leader and I want to know, like, have you asked them why? Like
That's
what's
great.
going on? To me, that tells me something's happening. If they're showing up a certain way, if they're showing up not ready, they look like they're not ready for work. They're
Hmm.
disgruntled, they're frustrated, whatever. You can tell when your staff
Right,
show up when
right,
they're not ready.
right.
Teach them to use the words like, can I have 5 minutes to get ready? Can I have a
Nice.
moment to get ready? Like, so we challenge our supervisors. I put a lot of pressure on our management team to take care of their team first. Like,
Hmm.
don't just expect them to come in, drop everything, and start making coffee
Right,
because
right.
that's when they're going to eat our customers
Right.
because they're already
Love
irritated,
that.
right? Like
Right,
someone's going to be
right.
like, oh, this is wrong. And they're going to be already irritated. And I was
Yep,
like,
yep.
we don't want to customer serve. Like we don't have to backtrack and then do all that. So
Yeah,
we've taught them to like name their feelings and
nice.
and it just is what it is. Like I've showed up for work many times where I'm like not ready to work and I just need a
Mhm.
minute. And I feel like that's healthy and okay.
Right, right. And empowering your staff to take that time is great. Like, they come in knowing, "I can do this. I'm gonna get that time I need." Wow, what a game
Yes.
changer.
And it really is like this generation. I mean, mental health is something that I had to learn about normalizing in the workplace. You know,
Mhm.
I'm 40 plus, so I've been in the workplace for a while. We didn't talk about that in the workplace. Even if I was having an anxious moment or an overwhelm, I wouldn't even know how to say that to my supervisor.
Right, right,
Right? But
right.
this generation does because they've normalized mental health and taking care of
Nice.
themselves. And so that language is something that is new to me. And
Mhm.
I've had to be challenged to be open to those conversations.
Right, right,
Right?
yeah.
Because I'm like, what do
For
you mean you're
Yeah,
overwhelmed? Like, my
right.
first thing is like, so go back to work. Like we have things to
Right.
do. Like, let's get it
Yep.
moving. But I've
Yeah,
been challenged and taking a step back and being like, they're telling me they're overwhelmed. Like, what
right,
can I do as the owner of it? I'm like, go take 5 minutes and we'll switch out.
right,
And then
right.
they come back and they're fine.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's both a good humanitarian decision and a good
Mhm.
business decision to give them the time they need, you know?
It really
Yeah,
is. Again, I
right?
always challenge those big businesses. I'm like, if you just took care of your people,
Right,
no
right.
matter how big we get, we will be committed to taking care of our people first.
Man, I would love for big companies that don't do this well to come work for you and
Hmm.
come be a barista for a week.
Just come be a
Feel the
barista.
difference, you know?
Yeah. And our staff, we're tracking our staff retention rate. And so and we've only been open since October, but I had our
Right,
leadership team build, the system to track retention rate. Because I'm like,
great.
when your employment retention rate starts to drop, then you need to pay attention to that. And don't just say,
Right.
oh, well, it's just that time of year. Oh, it ebbs and flows. No, you
Yeah,
need to pay attention to that.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
they had one person quit and it was like, oh my God, and they're young also. And so they're like, what are we going to do? But the fact that they were paying attention to it is all I wanted. Like pay
Yep.
attention to that because I've worked in places where they were used to frontline people coming and going.
Mm,
Like they were
mhm.
used to having like, oh, that's the frontline work. That's just how it is. And I'm like, no, because I know people who have worked in retail they've built careers on that.
Right,
20,
right.
30 years, like long time, amazing, traveled the world. So we have to
Yeah,
make sure that we teach people there's a pathway to do that. What does that look like? And make sure that we're training them. I tell the baristas, I'm training you out of your job. I want you to be a barista for, a year. And then what's next for you? Like,
nice.
what else do you want to do within Black coffee?
Right, right,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, and that makes so much sense.
Hmm.
I don't understand why everybody doesn't do it, but there you go.
Yeah. Because it takes
What is
time.
Yeah, yeah, it takes time and it takes work, yeah, for sure.
Yes.
What is your superpower?
Let's see. I'm glad you're only asking me that. Don't ask anyone around me. I would say my superpower is that I will try to find the best out of all situations. I'll try to find the best out of a situation, even when there isn't a best in the situation. And I do it for me. But I've done that for those around me. And even if even the best response is just to move on and just get over it. I feel like that's my superpower because I've had lots of situations where I've taught myself to do that. That's my superpower because it used to hold me back.
Mm, yeah,
Because I'm a
that's
processor. My
yeah,
my brain never stops.
yeah,
And
that's a
so
good one. Yeah,
yeah. And I'm teaching others to do that, others that think like me, other creatives.
mhm,
And I hired staff that are creatives like me. And so we used to have these, even when I first started, I would send emails out like 3 in the morning, just because that's when my brain is up.
right.
And I didn't realize that's a really bad behavior to pass on
Mm,
to your staff. My supervisors did it to me and I would hate it. And I would get up and I'd be like, it would be on my mind, right?
right, of
And so I was
course.
like, that is a really bad thing to pass on to someone. So I've had to teach myself
Yeah,
how to not do
yeah,
that. And so that's my superpower because it was really hard habit to break. And I've also asked those around me to hold me accountable to that.
that's
Um,
good.
and
Yeah,
like I've never had my supervisor ask me or an owner to say, hold me accountable to that.
right,
um, but they
and
do,
mean
and I
it.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
And mean it
yeah,
and tell me to stop. if I'm doing, they say I'm doing the most, they're young. Like when you're doing the most, like, can you please stop? And I'm like,
Right. Slow down.
right.
That's
But
great.
I
Yeah.
wish that my boss would have heard me say that sometimes with
Yeah.
project after project. If someone would have heard me say, can you please slow down? It's a lot right now.
Yep.
I feel
Yep.
like I would have been more happy. I would have been
Mm-hmm.
happier. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Learn to say no. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Can you recommend for us a book, a movie or TV show, a podcast, and another local business you support?
Yes.
And
So,
I can break that out for you because that was a lot all at once.
okay. I'll just say the local businesses that I support are Zuri's Donuts in Linwood, Washington. He's our donut supplier. He's a Black man. He is just the best. Like, I just love
Awesome.
his energy, his spirit. He works so well with our staff. And imagine us opening a coffee shop, and we did a lot of missteps. Like, we forgot to pick up the donuts. We need donuts. Or we forgot to place the order,
Right.
And so he's like making it work, and that's what we need. It's amazing. In Boon Boona, Ephraim, his restaurant's in Renton, Washington, who is essentially our competitor, right? Like, he's a coffee owner, but he took us under his wing and taught us
Nice.
everything about coffee. Which is, and he comes up to the shop all the time to hang out or to be like, your temperature's off, like we'll make, but wants us to be the best we can be, which is amazing in business. So those two businesses are businesses that I support, and will continue to support forever.
Awesome.
Some of the I love the Read podcast, which is it's a social podcast. It's two Black comedians talking about social issues. It's comedian, so it's funny, and I love it because
Fabulous.
sometimes I just need to laugh about some of the foolishness going on in the world, right? I just need to laugh about it.
Yeah.
Like, fine. Another one that I love is called The Breakdown is another podcast that I love. And then I'm looking at it right now. Another one that I've just started listening to that I'm a little addicted to, it's called Earn Your Leisure.
Nice.
It's
Nice.
two men, and they're talking about investment and money, and money management and business management and marketing. And they're two young Black males, like the millennials, right, who just get it naturally. And they're teaching people like me who don't understand,
Right.
but they speak it in language that I understand. Because sometimes when I went like, oh, let me go figure out like how to do, QuickBooks, like for this, like you're like get deep into it, and they'll do an episode on it, and they'll talk about it in language I understand. I'm like, yes.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I will be checking that out.
Yes, so good. I'm just like, their episode today is about Microsoft's new technology, and they'll walk you through it. They'll talk
Fabulous.
I'm just like, just tell me how to do it simply.
Man, that is a lot of research they're doing on their end. That's great. That's so awesome. I
love it. Yeah.
Generosity of spirit right there, man.
Yes.
Yeah. How about a book? Got a good book idea?
Book that I'm reading. I'm looking at them now because they're all here. I would say the number one that I do love is called The Service Culture, and it's by Jeff. I can't spell his last name. I'll say it. It's Twister. Whatever. Right here.
It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah. This is the first book that I read where it talked about serving your employees.
Nice.
And what does it look like to be intentional about external and internal customer service, which is something that I always wanted in the workplace. My husband spent a long career in the tech field. I spent a long career in the nonprofit field. We both climbed our way up to executive level leadership in our careers. And the number one thing that we always had complained about is that we spent a lot of time building like campaigns for our external customers or to get new customers. We never see that same effort with like your employees.
Right.
Like your first customer is your employee.
Yep.
And so I was like, there's a book that talks about that. So I just like studied it and love it.
That's fantastic. Yeah. That's a great one. Okay. And finally, movie or TV show that you like?
So I love the TV show Martin. It's Martin
awesome.
Lawrence is a comedian.
Yep.
My husband and I watch every episode multiple times. We know all the words. Yeah, it's like that. And then I love I think that's really the only TV show I love watching. The news. That's on in my house 24/7.
Yeah, me too.
I can't even lie.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say it out loud, but it came out. I watch the news a lot.
Yeah. It's great, but it makes me want to throw things at the same time sometimes. So, there's that. But
It does, but we do watch it a lot. And I think my whole family does, the kids too.
That's
So
great.
I
Well,
think yeah,
it's important.
it is.
What are your hopes for the future of black coffee?
My hopes for the future of black coffee is we want to branch out, and we want to follow like the franchise model, but we want to make sure that we stay true to who we are. Like with whichever community of black coffee is in, it serves that community the way it needs to be served, right? So we don't want our cookie cutter model, what works in Shoreline isn't going to work in another community. And so that's what we're trying to build. Like, what are we going to duplicate? What are we going to copy?
Right.
But how do we make sure that it stays true? What I want is a bunch of black coffees around owned by young emerging leaders.
Awesome.
By young people, like 18 to 25. Like, I want them to own. We want to teach them how to be entrepreneurs and help them to start to build generational wealth within their families, within their communities. That's what we want. Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. I don't know how we're still trying to figure out how it's going to get there, but that's the dream.
Right. Next step. It's only been a few months. I'm sure you'll have it figured out by it's very easy.
Yes.
All right. And finally, how can people find you when they need a cup of coffee and a conversation?
When they need a cup of coffee and a conversation, they can find us at our shop in Shoreline. Our hours are actually changing. So right now we're open from 6:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, just through the drive-thru.
Okay.
So our drive-thru is only open. But starting May 1st, our lobby will be open as well during the week.
Fantastic.
Yes. And our, with COVID safety, we've taken this much time to make sure that we're COVID safe. So our lobby will be open 7 days a week, Monday through Monday.
Awesome.
6:30 a.m. to 4. So starting May 1st. Our address is 16743 Aurora Avenue North in Shoreline, Washington. The best place that you can follow us is on Instagram. Our Instagram page is run by my daughter and her team.
Fantastic.
And it's always good conversation. It's mostly conversation. They ask lots of questions. They kind of get the conversation started there first. And then people will come into the coffee shop and continue the conversation.
Oh, great. And what's the handle on Instagram?
It's at Black Coffee NW.
NW. Great. Okay.
Yes.
We'll make sure we have that in the show notes.
Yep. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and they just started a TikTok page. I don't know anything about that. But there is a TikTok page.
Just that you have to have one because that's the next thing, right?
So we have a TikTok page too.
Awesome. That's awesome. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you would like to mention or?
No, I think that's it. I think you captured it all. Yeah.
Oh, it's so exciting. I love talking with you. This has been a great conversation. Darnesha Weary of Black Coffee Northwest. Thank you so much for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Darnesha Weary for taking the time to speak with me. You'll find all the resources she discussed listed in the show notes. Check them out, then grab your reusable mug and get along to Black Coffee Northwest. Sit, sip, and soak in the atmosphere and the energy. If you're interested in a podcast for your business or organization, please check us out at audiotocracy.com. We offer a free 45-minute consultation to be sure podcasting is right for you and talk about how to move forward. Thank you for listening to the Audiotocracy podcast. I'm Shannon Perry, and I'll see you next time.